Hi, Joe and Steve here from Freshagenda for another weekly update of what we're seeing around the world. We're bringing this from a ancestral home of a footy team we'll never follow. We're deep in the Sharon stand, dogs in the background. It's an interesting environment. Joe, we've had some opening price flurries from Australian milk processors.
Yeah, that's right. With less than a week to the opening of the 2018-19 season, we've got all the opening prices for the for Victorian processors. We've just put a chart here just showing where they stand. There's obviously a few caveats and some considerations with these quoted prices, and as always, individual farms will yield different prices, won't they, from these various incentives and structures.
Yeah, and like we'd always say, get your income estimate on your own farm before you make conclusions about what's on offer.
That's right. I guess it's fair to say it's a little bit short of where we were seeing the market in our June outlook. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there have been some that have revised their prices upwards, but there's also a lot of uncertainty out there, so we'll watch that with interest over the coming months. And Steve, the US trade wars are escalating quickly. We're still talking about those a lot in the media around dairy at the moment. What are you seeing there?
Yeah, speaking of uncertainty, the American cheese market has totally cacked itself in the last 2 weeks, and we're showing there the fairly dramatic impact on block and barrel cheddar prices. Possibly an overcorrection with barrel prices. There's a bit in that. It's about the product form. It's seeing that some of the affected product that might be going to Mexico or might be affected by the Mexico tariffs is moving to barrel production, which is already way overstocked. And there's some other production shifts going on within the industry that have exacerbated that. But we'll keep watching that. I guess what's also in the background that cheese stocks are the highest on record. So the market's pretty nervous about demand slowing down with the Mexican and Chinese issues in the background. So yeah, quite a bit of uncertainty and almost you'd say panic going on.
For sure.
That hasn't extended to the whey market. Whey products are the most affected by the Chinese tariffs. So the whey market, which is tightened considerably, you can see in that chart the prices have risen strongly in the last few months.
Yep.
They've only come off a little bit, and I guess that's partly as to how the market's reading the real impact of those tariff changes in China as to what they might do. Looking now, we see a couple of interesting pictures that help tell that story. Firstly, just showing the impact that the US has a little bit over half of the whey products trade into China, which is very significant. Mostly going to the pig market, mostly into feed, obviously. Yeah. It's a case of where else can that product come from. It's a strong lactose ingredient for highly intensive pig operations, so that's, there's not too many options around. Looking now at where the European whey, the most obvious other supplier, and Europe is probably pretty happy. Their market's higher priced. We're likely to see some European product go in there in place, but it may well be that what the Americans end up doing is giving up a bit of price to keep that market. And that's probably what's being read in the US market as well, that not much will change in reality.
There's certainly a lot of nervousness generally in the US, in the ag sector, around the impact of trade wars that Trump is really waging with everybody. You've written a bit of a blog article this month that's up on our website, Steve.
Yeah, I thought it was worth putting a piece together to just explain what the issues are with the trade wars, and looking for the idea of a strategy somewhere in this. Is there a game plan that Trump might have? What might the issues be around that? And the various inconsistencies with what we're seeing in the way it's being played. So, yeah, have a read. It's interesting, I think, to pause and look at the background.
Yeah.
As to what's going on.
Yeah, very interesting. And also, Sonny Perdue, the ag secretary, was in the press saying Trump has farmers' backs, so
they shouldn't worry at all.
They shouldn't worry.
Yeah. So just wrapping up, Joe, your chart of the week.
Yeah, so every week choose a chart from our weekly Dairy Globe newsletter that's interesting to talk about. And this week we're flipping to the EU, and it's a chart about intervention sales. This last week we've had sale of just over 20,000 tonnes of skim milk powder. The realised price was a bit better than in previous tender sales. So the EU's getting a bit of confidence, I guess, and they've just announced this week that they're going to up the rate of the sales from the stockpile as a result.
Yeah, I think that's which brings us back to that little matrix that we've talked about that is obviously on Commissioner Hogan's phone. That he wakes up and looks at the skim milk powder price, offers, and the where the butter market is, and decides, is the farmgate market at any risk? Farmgate prices are firming. The butter market has weakened a little bit, but it's still in good territory.
Yeah, so he feels confident. Hogan!
All right. Well, that's all from us. We'll probably wrap there as a train tries to drown us out in the background. We'll see you next week.